Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bunbun. This is our True Detective Night Country episode 5 reaction and review. If you are out there being like, it's Friday, why is this video here? It's because it is already available on Max. You can go over there and check it out, stream it. There are spoilers from episode 5 all throughout this video.
100%. They made it available early because Super Bowl,
Yeah.
it'll still be up on Sunday as well.
This is our Super Bowl. This is our
Right?
This is the big moment. We're getting close to the end of the game, or in this case, the end of the case. Did the Tuttles kill Annie K? Are they responsible for everything that has happened? We are going all the way back to season 1.
Yeah, and we've been talking about the Tuttles a lot this season because there has been a lot of connections back to the Tuttles. Russ' dad's up there. There's the spiral. There's so many connections to the Tuttles. And this episode connected it even further that they are the people who have the money in the mines. They also have the money in the lab, and they are using the lab to sort of fudge numbers about pollution, about what is going on in the mine. It is all connected, which I'm really thankful for. For a while there, I was like, did they just drop the Tuttles and we're down the Tuttle hole being
Yeah.
like, oh, it's all connected. And then it was like, they didn't mention anything again for an episode or two. I'm like, you guys better not just drop this as oh, here's a cool Easter egg. Nope, it's all connected.
Yeah, this is not an Easter egg. This is a full Easter basket. There's a lot of information here. I think it's all really valuable. I mean, we may not see anybody from season 1 or anything like that, but it doesn't really matter. I think what matters is the core of what's going on here. There is an unbelievable amount to unpack there, and that's without even getting to the very end of this episode with Hank and Pete, which, there are some opinions for that. Get your hard hats ready and
Yeah.
hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any more coverage we have on True Detective Night Country. We are going to have another theory video coming up about the spiral leading into the finale. We don't want you guys to miss that either.
Okay, I'm putting on my tinfoil hat for going into theories right now as well. It's not about the spiral, but it is about the Tuttles and Annie K and how it's sort of all connected to them and why she ended up dying. So this is just a theory. Nothing's been 100% confirmed here. So make sure that you guys also leave your theories as well. We say this every video, but it's true. There's no wrong theories at this point because there's not enough information out there yet. Okay. Yeah. So did the Tuttles kill Annie K? This is my theory about that. I think that now that we know that the mines, the Tuttles have their hands in it, they also have their hands in the lab that's up there that's now fudging the numbers. I think there are two different things going on up at the labs, that they are working on this sort of looking for bacteria or whatever they're looking for up there. And then there's this second thing that I think some of the scientists are involved in, which is the fudging of the numbers of the pollution so that the mines can just keep on going, being like, hey, there's nothing wrong. Look at our pollution numbers. They're all great. What are you talking about? And nobody really knows that the Tuttles have their hands in both because they're playing a shell game. So what I think has happened with Annie is that we know that she was, involved in trying to get to the truth that the mines really were doing this and hurting the community and all these horrible things that were going on. She was getting closer and closer and closer. We saw that video of her actually in the ice caves that are owned by the Tuttles. Yes. We know that now. They are part of the mines. So she found herself in there. There was a 2-3 second video of her being like, oh my God, I found it. If something happens to me, and then all of a sudden something happens to her.
Yeah.
So my theory is that some of the scientists that were up the lab were actually also working in the ice caves to get the information to be able to fudge for the pollution. And that when she was down there and she was like, oh my God, I found it. I found what's going on. She actually found some of the research equipment that they had been using to be able to fudge these numbers. And I think there was a scientist or two that were actually down there, and they came around the corner or whatever and was like, uh-oh, okay, we know that Annie has been really pushing against the mines.
Yeah.
we're caught down here doing this now. She's seen the operation. What else can we do? And then they decide to kill her. And then we now know that Hank moved the body. So my feeling is that the Tuttles, and Kate and everybody was just like, okay, well, if this woman has found out about this, you guys have killed her. Great. That's taken care of. We'll just get Hank to move the body. It can't be on the mining property. So we'll just move her out. We're done. And we'll cut out her tongue to send a message. And this is where my Clark revenge theory, I think, is going to come into play. I think some of the scientists knew what was going on with the fudging of the numbers, and some of them didn't. And I think that Clark didn't. So when he found out that maybe some of the scientists felt like they had to kill Annie, she had stumbled upon what they were doing, they didn't know. He didn't know how many of the other scientists were involved in this, and he killed everybody.
Okay, so let's go into everything you spelled out there just one bit at a time.
Yeah, sorry, that was long-winded, guys, man. Thank you for holding on.
It's a really compelling idea, and it's one I personally really believe in. I think you're right. I think this is a revenge tour, and ultimately, the most important thing here is that we've said this for a while. Sure, it looks supernatural, but it doesn't have to be supernatural. I think this show is all about trying to give us logical reasons why certain things are happening. Mm-hmm. Everything you spelled out is logical, and it starts with the secrets of the ice caves. And as you mapped out there were scientists, there might be somebody there's people who were down there, obviously, because somebody had to have killed Annie K in that moment. And there's no other way to look at that, right? Like, it was pretty instantaneous. So there had to have been somebody there. And
yeah, unless they were having her followed, which they might have. I mean, she was really vocal.
Anything is possible there. I mean, one thing I'm kind of curious about, and I don't know if we'll get an answer to it, is just in the particular my ice caves with the scientists, is this going to be a situation where did they really even want to be doing this in the first place? Because I kind of get the sense that the Tuttles were probably like, sure, you can play around with your fancy science toys and try to figure out a way to save humanity, but if we're going to fund this, you got to do this other stuff for us as well. So they may have been doing it reluctantly. This may not be a situation where these scientists are just like, ha, look at you, environment. Yeah. We're destroying you. But their desperation in this moment when they see Annie K, like they may have this fear in their heads of, oh my gosh, this person is here. We don't want to kill her. We don't, we might even believe in what she's saying to a certain extent, but we have devoted years of our lives to this project, and we think that what we're doing is going to potentially change the course of human history. And if this gets out, all of our research could go away. Salal gets shut down. Our funding is cut off. We can't do any of this. And it's a really dark idea, but it's a really dark show. This idea of, okay, we're going to kill this person to potentially save a bunch of other people, because they may have reached full mad scientist at this point, by the way. They may very well have just been like, what we're doing is going to work. We're going to do it, guys. We're going to save the universe. We're going to have this happen. And so that's why everything that you sort of lined out here with the ice caves and the connections, it all does make just a heck of a lot of sense. And of course it makes sense for Tuttle to be involved in everything, because as established in season 1, they are rich, they are successful, they're everywhere. They want to play God. This gives them an ability to play God. And if the Salal people actually do uncover the secret to long-lasting life, they can then use that and monopolize that to however they see fit also.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's go over to Mr. Clark here and what's going on with him. I think we are both now of the same opinion here that, Clark didn't murder Annie K. Like he loved Annie K. He cared about Annie K. I think we both believe that.
Yeah, I don't think that he killed her. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. But taking an L in the finale, that's fine. Doesn't really matter. But, I just don't think he did. As I explained in my theory, I think that he found out that what the scientists were doing, and that maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of them ended up killing Annie, everything that ended up happening. The tongue ends up back at the lab. That would explain why it ended up back at the lab, that maybe it wasn't Clark. Clark found out and just went crazy. And killed everybody. So it doesn't explain why they were necessarily outside, what was going on with that, that feeling of like, oh, they all kind of went crazy with fear, and how is that connected to, Julia also taking off her clothes and, folding them neatly. What happened to Otis? Like, it feels like this has been going on a really long time because Otis explained in this episode that when Clark came to him, he asked him, what happened to you? Like, how did this happen to you? Sort of thing. He didn't have all the answers. And Otis was kind of explaining what had happened and what was happening at the caves, and that they had gotten shut down. Then there was like this weird howling and like screaming that was going on outside. And some of the guys, the miners, were going towards it. And he was kind of like, hey, like, stop, whatever. And then he woke up in the hospital where, everything that happened with his eyes, and he didn't remember much else. But Clark was really like, what happened and how did that happen? But this happened to Otis like 30 years ago.
Yeah. So in that sense,
this has been going on a long time, some of this stuff.
Yeah. Whatever's going on here has been taking place for a very, very extended period of time. Now, you had your tinfoil hat theory explaining all of this. Let's tag team here. I'm gonna get this now. Okay, all right. I'm having a tinfoil hat on here. I've got the answer to part 2. Everybody, actually, I think yours is probably much likelier to be true. Okay, here we go.
Don't matter.
All right. So if Clark did this as a revenge tour, which I believe is correct, Clark is doing this out of revenge. So then, how did he kill all the scientists? How did he make this happen? We've gone over this. There's no signs of physical trauma. He didn't beat them up. There's no like specific wounds on them. It has to be a poisoning. It either has to be a poisoning or it has to be some sort of, illness that has been brought on by a very specific substance. And this leaves us a couple of very, defined possibilities.
And we also did a whole video on this that we'll link for you below.
Yeah, and in that video, we talk a little bit about how this could either be the response of something like, lead poisoning, something that happens to that degree, something that is a little bit more known, or something that's a little bit more unknown that is kind of the byproduct of the microbes that have been researched, where at the end of the day, Clark managed to basically implant an extreme amount of whatever substance it was on these scientists. And, I think we even said this maybe in like our first or second review that, this is kind of like a communal atmosphere, these research centers. They probably all ate at the same time, sat down, had a drink or whatever. He probably, spiked something that they were all drinking or ingesting at the same time. It was probably slow acting. It happened at this point, and all of like the spirals, everything that you're sort of seeing in the trailer around Clark, all of this madness, I think that's just attributed to, his desperation for answers, his frustration, and kind of, if you go down a rabbit hole long enough, all you see is the dirt around you, and it's like the light is so far away you can't even look at it anymore.
Yeah, I think with this idea of him going on a revenge tour after everything that happened with Annie, that's why his trailer was filled with all these different things, some things that maybe he found out from Annie, other things that he learned sort of about the Tuttles, maybe he learned about the first season case. I know they were mostly left out of it, and the Tuttles are fine, they did nothing wrong, it's all, this other family over here sort of thing. But maybe he was able to dig deeper and find the Tuttles connection to it, and that's why we did see a lot of stuff in his trailer that then he was like, oh, okay, and they own the lab and they have their hands in the mine, and oh my god, Annie was right.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily answer, like the folding clothes part of it, and how Julia folded her clothes versus how the scientists folded their. It's just, there's some parts of this that we may just have to attribute to sort of metaphor, unpacking a former life, going out, beginning something new. Like I don't know if every single part of this is going to be explained in the end.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's probably some sort of poisoning that has to do with the mines, and that's why this has been going on for at least 30 years.
Yeah, and that explains then why it would happen to somebody like Julia, or why Navarro is having some sort of visions. Like there has been, talk about the water in multiple episodes.
And we've seen it, and it's not right.
No, it's not right at all. And it's just ultimately these scientists at Salal either were fed an extreme version of that, or it was
that's what I
something
think.
about the research. I'm not getting off my island of the research killed the scientist.
That's way more interesting
It's more
than the
fun.
idea that it's like the mines are just poisoning everybody. Like, it's way more fun.
It's way more fun. It's probably less
in the
likely.
darkest way.
It's less likely to be the case, but it's just much more interesting. I mean, either way, like, it was something that was deliberately done to the scientists at the same time versus, you know, Julia or Navarro or these other people, where it just seems to be kind of happenstance based on the environment and what's happening to them. You know, here we are. We haven't seen the finale yet. Have we cracked the case? Maybe the show will just completely laugh at us in the finale.
It's interesting too that we did learn a little bit about the spiral. And like we said, we're going to have a video up on that. That's going to be diving deeper into it and what the connections have been through the seasons, and especially season 1. And, you know, we know Annie had the tattoo. We know Clark got the tattoo. Now it's also on these rocks. And it was explained in this episode that the meaning of the rocks with the spiral on it was a way for hunters to warn other hunters that ice is thin and that it could be dangerous out there near the ice caves and stuff like that. And, you know, if that's the meaning, that may be the meaning for Annie, where it's like, okay, you know, she's hunting and she's hunting the Tuttles, or what's going on with the pollution, what is going on with the mines, and that's sort of her feeling on it.
Yeah, I think that there's, interestingly, a very specific meaning put on the spiral in Night Country. I will also say this. That doesn't mean that the meaning that was from season 1 is not still there in season 4. I still think there is a connection there. It's a little bit of a tease for the video that we'll have coming up on all of it. I don't think it's necessarily, oh, we're completely stepping away from season 1 altogether.
Okay, so are we going to actually see Clark? Because Otis revealed that the Night Country is the caves. And so we haven't seen him yet. We just know that he's out there somewhere with no jacket. So, you know, is it possible that he's down there figuring out more of what Annie had figured out, or kind of what is going on down there? It feels like he's going to be down there, but dead or alive, I don't know. What do you guys think? Dead or alive? Dead or alive?
Alive.
Alive. Yeah, me too.
I think he's alive, and I actually think he will willingly go with Danvers and Navarro and turn himself in after he gets what he wants from there. If they don't let him get what he wants from there, maybe he's not going to be willing to go. Then maybe we have a very different situation here. But I think if he can actually fully articulate everything that we've sort of mapped out here, provided, of course, that we're on the money with this, then it's just like, you know, yes, I did commit all these murders. Yes, I know it's very, very bad. But what these people are doing is really, really bad, and it's damaging this community for generations. I have to get this out there. Then they might let him finish it. And, you know, we've already seen that Danvers and Navarro aren't exactly all for following certain rules, i.e. the letter of the law in all circumstances. So I think they're going to let him get the information that he needs, and then he will be arrested. The community can start to heal. The mines are going to get shut down.
All right, let's put on our hard hats and our beef hats. Let's
this
talk
is a beefy hard hat.
Listen, everything that happened with Hank in this episode for me was just the pits. Like, I just didn't enjoy how hard of a curve they hit with this character. Like, we know that he's done some kind of like shady things in the past, something that had to do with Annie K, but like that he moved her body, and then he's like waving a gun around in Danvers's house trying to like take Otis, and what was going on with Kate in the car, where she was basically like, yeah, I know I promised you that position that Danvers ended up getting to move that body. And, you know, you did. And I wasn't able to make that happen. But didn't we drive a pile of money up to your house? We did. And he's like, yeah, but that money's gone now. Okay, well, you know, if you just take care of Otis, then, you know, we'll drive another pile of money up to your house. And now I can make that position happen for you. And he's just like, I'm not going to kill anybody. Oh, you have to kill him. You just have to kind of like, you know, whatever, lose him in the snow, which is killing him, right? So it's just kind of like, how did this character just go full evil in like 5 minutes in this episode? It was too much all at once. There was not enough buildup for me. They did that character really dirty.
This is the first time this season I feel like we've had something that is a surefire miss. Like, there's other like moments we could sort of quibble with here or there, but I think this has been a just really great season. And
Yeah.
this is the first time I've sort of sat back and not really felt good about something that they've done. And I think to me, a lot of it kind of comes down to what motivates Hank as a character. And so far this season, the biggest storyline, and it's been silly and it may be kind of pointless at the end of all this, is, this woman that he may have been getting catfished from. Like everything
And his
yeah,
loneliness.
his loneliness. Like that's the most important thing here. Like what drives Hank as a character for most of this season? It has been his desire to be loved. It has been his
Mhm.
desire to have some sort of companionship. And we saw whether it be, him bringing the stuffed animal to the plane as it lands, or him having all the petals on the bed and like all these, it showed that he's really can be very thoughtful and he can be very capable of loving somebody. And
Yeah, especially even with Pete and
yeah,
everything that happened with Pete when, Kayla kicked him out and they had that conversation on the phone. He was like, "Yeah, come on over. I got you." Like, I think he's truly looking to, squash that loneliness and have human connection. And that is something that is very difficult seemingly on this show in this area to have.
yeah, it's just none of this meshes well with what is the motivation for a guy like Hank to do something like this? Because then it's like, okay, he's getting motivated by money. He's getting motivated by power, being able to have this position. And it's understandable that he feels like Danvers got brought in. He kind of lost this thing that was promised to him. Of course, he's going to be upset by things like this, but
Sure.
there's a difference between being upset about something like this and being angry about it, and then also being willing to kill, and then also being willing, once he got up to that place, seeing Otis there, seeing Danvers there, Danvers not being willing at all to let Otis go, and then you're gonna basically turn it into that sort of full-on confrontation, because you pulling out the weapons, basically you saying, okay, I'm going to be willing to kill Danvers,
Yep.
kill Navarro,
Yep.
kill whoever comes in the way of all this. Like, and whoever stands in my way from here on out, like they're all gonna die. And it's just like, that has not been the character we have seen. We have seen somebody who, yes, has been engaged in corruption, but this is just like such an extreme of it. It's just, there needed to be more build up to it. I didn't really buy it. And yeah, it gives us a really big moment with Pete, but at the same time, it felt too, it sounds weird to say that it felt too shocking for a show that had multiple scientists show up dead on the ice without any clothes on.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think for me, they could have fixed this problem with a little bit of dialogue of maybe Kate basically being like, "I have this secret over you that could ruin you forever, put you in jail, end your career, basically end your life as a free man. I know that you moved a body, you tampered with a crime scene, we're the mining company. We're being, funded by one of the biggest, the Tuttles. They own everything. So she may not know that they've gotten away with what they got away with in Louisiana, but they have, right? And money and power and all this always seems to cover up anything that they want. So she could have easily been like, us, the corporation, against just you, Hank. So, like, if you don't do this, we're going to expose what you did and we're going to still cover up what we did. So the only person that's going to lose is you. There needed for me to be more motivation than we'll give you more money. And sure, you can have this job we promised you, but didn't give you. So maybe you'll get that. Like, it just didn't feel like enough.
And, on the flip side of this, while they did not handle the Hank part of this, I don't think very well, I think they handled the Pete part of this in a really, really interesting way, because, a lot of this storyline for him is about how does he get to this point where he's basically willing to take out his own father. And it's all sort of stemming from this idea of him really learning the truth from Danvers, well, and that questioning about what really happened with Wheeler. And I think how we can sort of summarize all of this is that we know now that Danvers and Navarro went out to Wheeler's place, 10 times. Like,
Yes.
that was enunciated very, very clear. But, this guy was still out there. And I think ultimately we're looking at a situation here where they weren't able to get this guy in the way in which they wanted many, many times. And, if you read a lot of news over the years, you know that unfortunately a lot of people like him don't get put away for the horrible things that they're doing on several occasions. I think that they showed up there. They saw what happened. They decided to take matters into their own hands at that point because they didn't want to see this guy hurt anybody else. at that point. They did whatever they needed to do to sort of make it appear as though this character, unalived himself at the end of the day. And so that they made the evidence sort of framed to work in that sort of sense. But I think Pete understanding all of that and looking at it and kind of getting some element of closure there. It doesn't even matter if Danvers spells everything out to him or not. I think he understands now what that is. And while Danvers may be a very cantankerous person, to say the least, and while Navarro may have her own issues that she's gone through, I think he believes in both of them in a way that he does not believe in his father. And when all that's spelled out in that scene, at Danvers' place, I think you see it on his face. I think he's like, who am I going to support here? These two people who I think in their hearts are trying to do the right thing, or my dad who is pointing a weapon at people and doesn't seem to be doing the right thing here at all.
Yeah. And, kind of snuck behind his back as well. Because when Connolly was like, I know about Wheeler to Danvers' face, she was just like, how would he know about this? And it's because Pete was digging into it. Hank went into the computer, figured it out himself, went and told Connolly, and it all kind of blew up. So Pete has felt betrayed by his dad a couple times this season.
Yeah. And I mean, my heart does go out to Pete. Like, he's in a really horrible situation. He has to clean up everything that happened to his own father, which is just...
It's heartbreaking. It's tough, man.
It's heartbreaking. It's horrible. And this is all on the heels of, Kayla just asked him to move out, so he's got all of that going on as well. Like, I think, Pete is clearly being run ragged in all these different directions with everything. But I think Pete is a good person, and I think Pete is trying to be a good cop. And I hope that on the other side of all this, once all this is, hopefully Connolly doesn't fire everybody and nobody has a job at the end of this, because I think he could do good things in this community.
Yeah, seeing, Pete step up like that. I mean, he has stepped up all season when it comes to his job and trying to do the right thing. Like, I think he's really been learning that sometimes you do have to fudge the line or be on the wrong side of the line to do the right thing to get to the right answers at the end of it. And that seems to be a lot of what's been going on with Navarro, Danvers, all of them. So the three of them are sort of in it together now. But this last scene of them, Danvers and Navarro driving off to the night country.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What are they going to find out there? Clark.
Yeah, I think they're going to find Clark. I think they're going to find whatever device is out there to help, the scientists fudge these numbers. Maybe...
What do you guys think they're going to find out there in the night country?
Okay, I'm going to call it the...
Ghosts? I know there's a lot of people out there that are excited about the idea that this is going to actually be a supernatural season.
They're going to find Russ Cole, who's down there, and he's just going to be like,
Oh
all
my
right. No, I know, we're not going to find that. They're going to find
oh my God,
the Mine Master 2000, which is going to be the super mining machine. I'm slightly exaggerating here, but I do think they're going to find something that just shows the full extent of all of the pollution that is going on, and it's going to be something that's really, really bad. And it was enough to make Annie K freak out, because it basically is sort of the smoking gun at the center of all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really tough, because I think they're also going to be, racing against Kate, against Connolly. They've been this is all shut down now. And, Connolly's basically I know what you and Navarro did with Wheeler. So if you keep going on with this, he didn't say it straight out, I'm going to do this to you. But the minute that he was like, I know about Wheeler, it's all implied. I know about Wheeler. Drop the case. I know about Wheeler. I was like, oh no.
Okay, here's the moment that actually really moved me in a way I did not expect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I've disliked the Leah character in that storyline. It's just felt at times a little bit distracting, but when she said, I still believe in you to Danvers, it's like, oh, that really hit me. I was not expecting that to hit me. And I think at the end of all of this, Danvers is going to help put a stop to the mines, and she's going to figure out everything horrible that's going to happen. I think these two are actually going to come back together, and they're going to find a way to make this relationship work.
Navarro's punching out people in every single episode. They've really that actress is a professional fighter. So I'm sure as soon as they got her on board, they were like, she's going to be punching everybody. We're not going to have a professional fighter on the show and not show some of those skills. Oh my God.
I ain't mad.
amazing.
No, that's all really, really well done. And
it's so well done.
Like, our misgivings about the Hank storyline aside, like, I think that we're really being set up, I think, for a really awesome ending, but also, importantly, one that still makes at least some sense. Like, we may not get answers as to Travis's ghost. We may not get answers as to everything, but that's okay. Some things can just be left out to metaphor.
Yeah, I think that stuff like Travis's ghost and what Rose is seeing. Oh, Fiona Shaw, man, I love this actress so much. She's so good. If you guys haven't seen Killing Eve, I know that you didn't love that character,
no,
Carolyn,
I did not.
but Fiona Shaw was so good on that show as well. I wish she had been in more of this. I know she doesn't really have more of a role to play, but I mean, everything about her has been really interesting. I think there is still some supernatural element to it with Travis. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, Travis is still alive. Let's pull off the Scooby-Doo mask. There was nothing supernatural at all. I think there's a little bit.
Then there might be, and it might just be explained away by how characters perceive the world. Maybe they do have some connection to the land that causes them to see things like, I mean, I know Innis, Alaska is a fictional place, so I haven't been there, but I also have not been to any places in Alaska that it is probably based on, so I cannot relate to that experience, but that is our experience with True Detective Night Country episode 5, and so much to get into in this video.
Oh yeah, this oh my god, this episode was packed and it was really good. I cannot wait for this finale. This whole season has been, for me, really, really good. I know that there's been some mixed reactions out there, but for me, I really have enjoyed this. If they can like stick the landing, this will be my second favorite after season 1. Like, I just absolutely love season 1, but this one is like, it's nipping at its heels.
Yeah, it's close. It's a lot closer than I thought it would be going into this season, to be perfectly honest. I think it's just we think season 1 is so untouchable in a lot of ways. But, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our upcoming Spiral Theory video. You can click on that box there to see our video all about the poisoning theory, everything that's going on there. Also, thank you to our patrons. Be sure to join our Patreon with that link in the description below for some exclusive content, and we'll see you guys here next time.